His, mine, ours. More and more American families are blended families. 40% of all married couples with children are step families. During the holidays, trying to coordinate schedules, plans, gifts between multiple households is enough to steal the merry from anyone's Christmas. Take a look.
Best-selling author Ron Deal is one of the most recognized experts on blended families. As a licensed marriage and family therapist, he says it is important for pre-blended couples and their children to understand how to thrive as a family after the wedding. Ron shares in his latest book, Preparing to Blend, how couples can successfully manage the expectations and challenges of merging two households into one, even around the holidays.
Please welcome to the 700 Club, Ron Deal. Ron, it's great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Terry. It's always good to be with you, and it's good to be back on the program.
Well, let's start with the term blended family. What should it really be called?
Well, you know, there's actually a lot of terms, and it just depends upon where you are in the world, actually, and culture makes a difference. So step family is a predominant term in the U.S. military and in most parts around the world, the U.K., South Africa, most African countries, New Zealand, etc. Step family is the predominant term. For the most part of the United States, blended family is the predominant term that people use, although for some people, a blended family refers to a biracial couple and really has nothing to do with a step family. So you can see how confusing it gets sometimes.
Well, your book is called Preparing to Blend. Why do you recommend that children be a part of their parents' wedding ceremony?
Oh, my goodness. Listen, the research is very, very clear. When kids have any sort of role in the planning of a wedding, in the preparation up to the wedding, and they get to choose what role they want to play in the wedding. And sometimes they don't really want a role at all. And sometimes they have a lot of mixed feelings coming into a parent's marriage. And so they would rather just sort of remain quiet and hidden, but other children want a very active role. Here's the point. When you give kids a voice in what happens, not just tell them or dictate, but when you give them a voice, it's respect that helps them then respect the wedding and the people in the wedding. Kids, oftentimes leading up to a parent's marriage and forming a blended family, haven't had any voice. There's been a lot of things that have happened that was beyond their control, and everything was taken from them. We're now going to give them a little something back that they get to speak into. That seems to help them see the wedding as credible and begin this journey of embracing their new family.
So what would you say, Ron, is the very biggest challenge to merging a family?
You know, actually, I think it has to do with the adults. I think it has to do with the expectations of adults as they plan and prepare for the wedding and forming a family. If your expectation is you and I love each other, that's really all that's needed here. You know, my news to people is coupleness does not necessarily equal familyness. Those are two different things. Coupleness is what's taking place while you were dating and falling in love, getting engaged, and now planning to be a couple till death do you part. But familyness is what happens with the kids, with former spouses and children moving between the homes, and how complex that can be. Multiple sets of grandparents, like that's familyness, and that takes quite a bit of time for most people to begin to settle and figure out. It's a little bit like living in a pandemic. You don't know what to expect. You don't know how this works. And a couple of years ago, we didn't have any ideas. We were just scared. And then all of a sudden, you begin to get your feet on the ground. You find new rhythms. You figure out how to navigate life and the world and what you have to do and what you can't do anymore. And you figure it out. And all of a sudden, you're beginning to live life again. That's very similar to blended family journey. So if your expectations are super high for you and the kids, then oftentimes it sabotages what could be. So we help people relax into what's realistic and be very strategic, if I could say it, wise, apply biblical wisdom to merging their family over time.
So what does healthy co-parenting actually look like?
Okay, so this is another part of becoming a healthy blended family for most step families. Not all step families have another home that the children are going between, but many step families have multiple homes, that kids may be from 2, 3, 4 different homes with lots of parents. Think about that. You may have 5, 6, 7 adults and then 10 to 14 grandparents and step-grandparents that are parenting these kids. It's a lot of moving parts. That's the complexity that we help people navigate. So co-parenting is one of those little pieces. And essentially it looks like this, and especially thinking about Christmas this week and the holidays, children moving between homes. A lot of this stuff seems to really come to the surface right about now. And that is, how can we bless the kids' time in the other home? How do we encourage them to like and love and get along with the new people in the other home, the step family members for them? Kids got to work out those relationships on their own terms. But when a parent says, you know, I'd much rather have you here, really would, and then the parent, you know, kind of gets emotional and upset and calls the child at the other home all the time. The message is, we want you here. You shouldn't be over there. It's wrong of you to be over there. Well, no, from the child's point of view, that is their family too. And so part of it is embracing that your child has two households, and your job is to cooperate with the other home as best you can in order to create an environment where the children can move back and forth and do so in a loving way.
Boy, that's a lot of wisdom there. You say ex-spouses should not try to outbuy one another or buy a gift even together for their children. It sends the wrong message, right?
Yeah, think about the cooperative nature of co-parenting. Like, what are you going to get? Here's what we're thinking about going to get. You know, the more you cooperate, the more you communicate, the more the two homes kind of come together and negotiate how they're going to do Christmas. Then you don't get into the games. You don't get into one home spending all kinds of money on the kids and another home just doesn't have that sort of money. And all of a sudden it creates favoritism and it pulls on the loyalties of children. All that does is the adult game there is about adults getting revenge, taking out their animosity about the past on one another. That's not a blessing for kids at all. One of my favorite little proverbs about co-parenting is when, it's actually not about co-parenting, but I like to think that it is, when two elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers, right? Elephants fighting are not even thinking about grass. Well, kids get trampled a lot when adults are trying to do something manipulative or controlling, or sometimes we self-justify based on sins the other person did against us back when we were married, for example. Like, now you have the right to be evil? I don't think so. I think the admonition in Romans 12 is repay evil with good, and in so doing, you heap burning coals on, you show them what good and righteousness is. You bring good to the relationship, and that is a blessing for children.
It really is. Boy, especially the holidays, there's so much to understand about how to blend well. I want you to know Ron Deal's book is called Preparing to Blend. It's available wherever books are sold, filled with lots of wisdom. Ron, thanks. Great to have you with us.